We are always in the Discord trying to figure out what management of various companies' next move is before they announce it. And it is funny today. I had just gotten through typing a couple hours before market close that GameStop was likely to dilute in order to buy Bitcoin. And the only question in my mind was buy Bitcoin and then dilute, or dilute and buy Bitcoin. Today, we get the news that GameStop is announcing a proposed private offering of $1.3 billion of convertible senior notes. As this is a move that I was totally expecting, I'm not even necessarily against it. I know that there's going to be investors on both sides that have strong opinions about this strategic move from Ryan Cohen and GameStop. But let's talk about what those two different sides are and what exactly this press release means for the company's attempt to make a strategic pivot. Let's talk about the key highlights from this press release. First of all, just so we're all on the same page, GameStop is offering $1.3 billion of aggregate principal amount of 0% convertible senior notes due 2030 in a private offering. Private offering means that the notes will only be available to persons reasonably believed to be qualified institutional buyers pursuant to Rule 144A. GameStop also intends to grant the initial purchasers of the notes an option to purchase an additional $200 million worth of aggregate principal of those notes. So the actual amount of money that the company could be raising is going to be $1.5 billion. $1.5 billion of convertible debt. The notes will be general unsecured obligations. They will not bear regular interest, and the principal amount of the notes will not accrete. That means simply that the principal amount over time is not going to grow. The notes will mature on April 1st, 2030, unless earlier converted, redeemed, or repurchased. Upon conversion, GameStop will pay or deliver, as the case may be, cash or shares of GameStop's Class A common stock, or a combination of cash and shares of Class A common stock at the company's election. So when it comes time for these notes to be converted, if they get to the conversion price, the company gets to decide if they want to use shares to pay off the debt or cash. The initial conversion rate, repurchase or redemption rights, and other terms of the notes will be determined at the time of pricing of the offering. That just means we don't have all of the details released to us just yet. So stay tuned. There's going to be a follow-up press release. GameStop tells us that the reference price used to calculate the initial conversion rate for the notes will be the VWAP of Class A common stock from 1 to 4 p.m. on the date of pricing, which will probably be any day now. They tell us that GameStop expects to use the net proceeds from this offering for general corporate purposes, including the acquisition of Bitcoin in a manner consistent with the GameStop investment policy. That policy update we went over in yesterday's video. Go read all about it in the 10K. The final paragraph here is just some boilerplate stuff commonly found in any private issuance of equities or securities. It's letting us know that the notes or any future shares which might be issued upon conversion of those notes have not at this time been registered under the Securities Act. And therefore, unless they are registered or there is another applicable exemption, they may not be offered for resale in the United States. I already see people going off into the weeds trying to decipher this. This is just everyday boilerplate language you can find in any sort of private offering. There's not any secret bag of tricks in this paragraph. It's everyday language. And I expect that if the day comes that the notes are taken care of, converted with shares, eventually those shares will show up in the float. With this news of the potential convertible note offering, GameStop's price did take a hit in after hours because of, its potential dilution down the road. The stock had, though, a nice run up today. Look at that pre-market action, $29.92, and pre-market, the stock did take a punch to the gut of about 5%. in after hours, currently trading at $26.75. I know some of you were playing options and people were upset when the price got taken down in after hours. And I'm going to keep on reminding you guys, think like an executive, not a retail trader. Ryan Cohen is trying to turn this company around. He is not trying to deliver you a short squeeze in the short term. There's not even hardly any short interest. It's 6.7% short. He's going to do what he needs to do to transform GameStop. Get on board and understand how the CEO is thinking, and you will be able to execute profitable trades. What a beautiful run-up. What a beautiful opportunity to capture some gains today during the trading day. I know the number one question everybody has, and it's a valid question. Why would he issue convertible debt when he has $4.6 billion of cash? Why not just use that cash to go buy Bitcoin? It's a good question. And he is once again thinking like an executive and like a CFO, using debt, using leverage while maintaining the company's liquidity. It's cash on the balance sheet, using that leverage to go buy the Bitcoin. The company can retain that cash for future mergers and acquisitions. Keeping the cash on the balance sheet gives the company operational flexibility and the ability to use that cash as a buffer if needed, should things become problematic in that core brick and mortar business. Issuing the debt at 0% interest and keeping the cash on the balance sheet enables the company to continue to earn a couple $100 million of interest from the cash on the balance sheet if they're making 4 to 5% annually. For investors, this actually gives you a bit of a safety net. If things were to go sideways in the retail business, the company has maintained its cash position. Or if Bitcoin prices drop, that's going to be a problem for these convertible notes. And the company has maintained the liquidity on the balance sheet should they need it in the future to pay off these convertible notes. The second thing I want you to think about is the cost of capital advantage here. With these 0% convertible notes, that is quite a steal compared to, say, a traditional debt that the company might go out and seek, where they would be probably paying 4 to 6%. There is no cash outflow. There is no interest payments. The company maintains the $1.5 billion of cash on the balance sheet, 1.3, 1.5, depending on where we end up here. And they get to continue to collect interest on that cash on the balance sheet. The conversion feature that we'll find out about in a couple days, the details of on these bonds, means that there is likely going to be future potential dilution, but only if the price of Bitcoin goes up. The idea is that the value of the Bitcoin will positively impact the company and investors, offsetting that future potential dilution. That is all well and good if Bitcoin goes up, but the other thing we need to think about, just to be fair to ourselves as investors, is what if Bitcoin stays flat or goes down? We're looking out here till 2030. I can't tell you for sure what's going to happen in the next 5 years. I know there's a lot of people positive about Bitcoin, and that is great, but we need to consider all potential outcomes. So let's just talk about those for a second. If Bitcoin stays flat or goes down, there won't be any conversion because it won't reach that conversion hurdle, but the bonds are still going to mature. They're going to come due, and the company is going to need to use cash to pay the bondholders back their $1.3 billion or $1.5 billion. So that cash will, at that point, go bye-bye off of the balance sheet. The other thing to think about is if the company buys Bitcoin, say in the next week or month or quarter, and over time, the value of Bitcoin goes down, it is going to negatively affect GameStop. The value of that Bitcoin, because of accounting rules, is going to be marked to market. And the company will take a hit both on its income statement, unrealized loss, and they will take a hit on their balance sheet at the same time. These are the risks that were laid out in the 10K yesterday, and I want you guys to go read through all of the risk factors in the 10K, like I always urge you to do. And just to be clear, those risks that we're talking about, the mark-to-market the unrealized loss on the income statement, the decline on GameStop's balance sheet if the price of Bitcoin falls. Those are going to happen even if the company does not sell their Bitcoin. It's just accounting rules. There will be a negative impact. On the positive side, if Bitcoin goes up, they're going to get the opposite benefits. They're going to have an unrealized gain on the income statement, and you'll see the asset side of the balance sheet growing. If you choose to stay invested in GameStop, you are agreeing to this speculative bet on Bitcoin. So make sure you understand what is going on here. So whether the price of Bitcoin goes up in the future or goes down, that you understand both the benefits and the potential risks. The final thing that I want to share with you guys about GameStop using convertible notes or debt leverage to buy Bitcoin instead of using their cash is that it shifts the burden of risk onto the convertible note holders. Keep in mind, they're earning 0% on these convertible notes. They're earning no interest. So they are counting on the price of Bitcoin going up and eventually converting and making their profit that way. If Bitcoin does not go up, they took the risk. Yes, they will get their money back when the notes mature, but they're not going to get the expected profits that they wanted when they bought these convertible notes. If the company spends its cash today, investors are taking the risk because that is your cash on the balance sheet that is being burned to buy Bitcoin. One more thing just to think about as you sort through, why does this make sense? Does it make sense or does it not? Let me know down in the comments what you guys think. If you have any other questions or comments, I'd love to hear from you. I am Tony DeNaro. Thank you for watching, and I will see you on the next video.